Hi everyone. I thought I would put together a video about a camera that I just bought, which is the Drift HD Ghost. You can see it here. And in this discussion and review, I'm going to cover three things about it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is a comparison of this camera with the GoPro and Contour, and kind of talk about why I think some of the comparisons between them are valid and some of them are not valid. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the accessories that I bought for this. Like I've got the waterproof case here. I've got a shoulder mount. I've got the surfboard mount here. And then I also bought a third-party charger and a couple extra batteries here. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was comparing this with the GoPro. So this particular model here is the top-of-the-line drift camera, and therefore it's typically compared with the top-of-the-line GoPro as well, which I think is actually not a valid comparison. And let me tell you why. So most people, I think, compare this with the GoPro because this sells for $399 and the Hero3 Black sells for $399 as well. But I think this is actually a better match for the Hero3 Silver, and there's a couple reasons why. So first off, the video modes that this is capable of shooting in are comparable with the Hero3 Silver. So it can do 1080 at 30 frames per second, 720 at 60 frames per second, and WVGA at 120. That's the same for both models. And if you want slightly better video, you can go with the GoPro, because even though they're the same settings, from what I've been able to see, it seems like the Hero Silver has slightly better 1080 video than this does, and slightly better 720 video. So even though they're the same settings, the video on the GoPro Hero 3 Silver is a little better. However, this has better battery life. This includes a screen, and it includes a rotating lens, which I'm sure you're already aware of. So you can see this can rotate around there for different mounting angles, and that's something that was a big selling point for me. So even though people then might say, oh, well, but the Hero 3 Silver costs $299, this costs $399, so that's not a valid comparison. I don't think that's actually true, because the Hero 3 Silver, if you wanted to add in the LCD screen so that it matches this, because this has the LCD screen, and if you wanted to add in the remote, which this includes, and if you wanted to add in the extra battery backpack, which this includes a really high quality battery to begin with, the GoPro then goes up to over $500 if you buy the Hero 3 Silver, which is $300, the LCD Touch backpack, which is $80, the battery backpack, which is $50, and then the remote, which is another $80. All of a sudden you get the same shooting modes for this camera and the Hero 3 Silver, but the Hero 3 Silver is way more expensive because you have to buy the remote, buy the LCD screen, and buy a better battery. And this price difference becomes even more clear when you, if you search around online, you can find coupon codes where you can get $100 in free accessories from Drift. And so with that, then I bought the waterproof case here. I bought the shoulder mount here, and I also bought the surf mount because I had $10 left over, and this was about $10. So I went ahead and just bought this, and then I decided to buy some other accessories. I'll get to those later from Amazon. But anyhow, so it's for those reasons that I think this camera is actually a better match for the Hero 3 Silver, because it's cheaper if you actually compare them with the same accessories, and it has the same shooting modes, even though this does slightly lower quality video from what I've been able to see. So if you want a little better video, go with the Hero 3 Silver. If you want better battery and rotating lens and the screen and all that good stuff, go with the Ghost HD. And as far as the Hero 3 Black, it seems like there's really no camera that competes with that, because that camera, it seems like its main thing is just amazing video quality, which there's no denying it does that. However, you do pay for it with weak battery life, and there have been all kinds of reliability issues reported with that. So if you want to read more about that, you could jump on their Facebook page and see like the apology from their CEO and everything. So to kind of sum that up, I think this camera's a comparison with the Hero 3 Silver because of similar shooting modes, and when you compare actually an equal comparison on accessories, this camera is actually about $100 cheaper than that, whereas the Hero 3 Black is going to be even more expensive, but you get really awesome video quality. So that has to do with cost. And again, I'd also like to mention, if you just Google $100 free accessories from Drift, you can find all kinds of coupon codes from a lot of people where you can get $100 in free accessories. So then you can have the waterproof case that'll get you really deep water, waterproof down to really deep water. So it's down to like 60 meters, I think. And then also you could get a shoulder mount or whatever accessories you pick for yourself. The last thing I wanted to talk about with comparing these cameras, a lot of people say that this camera is much bulkier and heavier than the GoPros, which I think is also a totally bogus comparison, because GoPro, they only report the weight of the camera as the camera by itself, but you never use the camera by itself because you have to mount it on something unless you're just walking around holding the little thing. So you should really only be comparing those weights when you've got the camera in the case, because you'd never use the camera without the case. It would be like if I were to compare the weight of this camera here and pull out the battery and then be like, oh, look how much lighter the camera is now without the battery. That's kind of a silly thing to say, because I would never use this camera without the battery. And likewise, I would never use a GoPro without the case. So if you search around on YouTube, you can find lots of, not a lot, but a few videos of people showing the weights of those cameras with the cases on, and then you find that their weight with the case is just the same as this without the case, and this is ready to go without a case because it's already got its mounting built right in there. So the weights on the two, again, it's kind of a bogus comparison. I'm not sure why GoPro releases those figures without the case, because you'd really only use it with the case. Okay, so that kind of concludes my rationale for comparing things. Oh, and I forgot to mention the contour. Actually, that doesn't conclude it. So with the contour, the big selling point there is the GPS feature, which I actually found really appealing, because I'll use this mainly for car racing, and I thought it would be really nice to be able to put together a map on track of how fast I was going in each particular place. So that's the big selling point with the contour, and it also has the rotating lens, just like the Drift does here. So definitely another thing to consider there. Very cool camera. So anyhow, that concludes the comparison. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was the accessories that come with this. And I really, really like the accessories. So one of my favorite accessories is the remote here, and you can maybe see it's kind of dusty because I just got back from mountain biking with it. So the remote's really cool because if you turn the camera on and then turn on the remote, you can see it'll pair up with the camera there. And I don't have a memory card in here, so I actually don't know if it's going to record. But yeah, so you can see it says no card there. But you get immediate feedback, and you can see lots of videos showing this, so you know that the camera is actually recording, because when it's recording, it will flash red here instead of green. And it's flashing green because it matches up with the setting on here. So I actually really, really like this feature, the remote, and that's one of the big selling points for me was on that. So I'll go ahead and shut this back off here, so that's not blinking. And this remote should shut itself off in a little bit here because it's no longer connected with the camera. So the remote control is awesome. It comes with this extra mount here, which is meant to go on like a set of snowboarding goggles, I think. And I found this to be kind of ridiculous. I tried to put this on my goggles, and the camera, when it's actually clicked on there, it just dangles. It pulls down on the elastic of it. So this was kind of a silly feature. Didn't particularly like that. But the remote is great. The waterproof case that I bought is really awesome, and I'll include a video showing this at the end, that if you just film underwater with this, you get kind of a hazy image because the glass is curved here. Whereas with this, with the waterproof case that they sell, the glass is a totally flat surface. And so this just slides right in. You can still rotate the lens on here. That's still a possibility, so I'll just go ahead and turn it like 90 degrees there. And then you just close it up. And then because this glass surface here is flat, you get a much sharper image underwater. And this seems really sturdy and well made. Very cool case. The only kind of problem is that the buttons are somewhat difficult to press. So it's hardly the end of the world, but they are kind of tough to make sure that you've actually pressed them far enough down that you've pressed the button on the camera itself. But love the waterproof case. The shoulder mount here, let me slide this out of the way. This is cool but the problem is that it's made out of this stretchy elastic material. And so you can see here's the shoulder piece. And because this is stretchy, when the camera's actually mounted on here, it's very floppy unless you snug this really, really tightly down. And I personally did not particularly like that, because the only time I could really use this is if I was walking. Because if I started to jog or I was on my bike or something, any bouncing would make this really start to jostle around because it was just stretchy. So what I might do is actually cut this elastic piece off this one strap and put more like seatbelt material or backpack material so I can actually snug this down tight. And I'll probably leave the rest stretchy, but swap this one out with something much tougher. And you can also see here, this is the front here, and I actually reversed the mount on this because I was thinking if I had the camera in there, let me get that open, mounted on there, and I like ran the camera into something going this way, I'd like to have it be pushed into the mount as opposed to the other way, where if I had it mounted this direction and something hits it, it could slide it all the way out. I don't know if that's actually a concern or not, but it's cool because you have the option to swap this out here. This all just slides off the strap, so you can see how you could take that off and switch it around if you'd like, which is what I chose to do, but I have nothing to back that up. That's just guessing on my part. So shoulder mount's cool, a little bit too stretchy, but I like it anyway. And that kind of brings us to our third category, which is why I picked this camera. So as I mentioned before, I think this camera is a competitor with the Hero3 Silver because it's a little cheaper when you compare it like for like with accessories, because with the GoPro you'd have to add in the LCD screen, add in a bigger battery, add the remote in, and all that stuff comes standard with this. So it's a kind of a nice little compact system that's all ready to go right out of the box. I really like the rotating lens because then I can mount it at all sorts of different angles. I like that not only does the remote work in regard to turning the camera on and off with recording, it also has the lights on it, so you don't have to be asking if you've turned the camera on or if it's still working or whatever the case might be. I really like that it comes with a standard 1/4-20 threaded tripod mount, or whatever kind of mount you want to use. And it's because I really hate it when companies use a proprietary mounting system, which is what GoPro has. So, I mean, every camera just about on Earth has this standard mount on it. And so now with this, you can go buy just a regular bolt from the hardware store, even if you wanted to thread it onto something and mount it that way. So it seems like it's a much more universal mounting system as opposed to having to get into the GoPro world where you have to buy the mounts that they make. And yeah, so I really liked everything. Again, oh, one last thing I didn't talk about was the accessories that I bought for it. So when I bought the shoulder mount and the waterproof case using that discount code, I then decided to go on onto Amazon, and I bought this battery kit for it, which was from Wasabi, and I want to say it was about 30 bucks or so, and it included this charger here. And so the charger works plugged into a wall, and it also includes a plug here on the side so you can plug it into a cigarette lighter in the car, which they include the cable for that. Plus it has 2 batteries, and the batteries themselves are a little bit larger than the stock battery that comes with the camera. So you can see this door opens pretty easy and the battery slides right out, whereas with these, when you put these in, it's a little more snug, and you kind of have to press down on this to get that to close. And when you open it back up, it doesn't slide out quite as easily, but it does come out, and then you can just kind of pull it out like that. So this seemed like a better way to spend the money, so use the accessories, the $100 accessory code on things from Drift, and then I could buy this stuff really cheap. And so now I've got 3 batteries, which is really awesome. And then I also had to buy a memory card and everything. So anyhow, that concludes the video here. My thoughts on the camera. I really love it so far. I'll throw up some videos showing the video quality of it. I'm pretty pleased with it so far. Seems like a very cool thing. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave those below. And I will see you all later.
Ugh.